Well, this is no doubt the first time you've ever listened to this podcast because this is our first episode. So my name is Dan Cuprill, and I'm here with Wes Cuprill. Go ahead and say hello.
Hi, everybody.
It's a beauty of podcasts. You don't have to be too formal about stuff. If our voices sound alike, there's a good reason for that. We are very much related. I'm the dad. He's the son. We're both financial advisors. And our office, Money and Clarity, is situated in Cincinnati, Ohio. And this podcast is specifically for women. We have found over the years that, even though you're not supposed to say it, that women are different. Have you noticed that women are different, Wes? I mean, is mom different from me? Yeah. But I don't know. Last few years, it's something like it's not in vogue to admit it. It's kind of like when they dropped the term actress. You know, there's no more actors and actresses. There's just actresses. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, just actors now. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like we can't make a, I don't even think I don't know how they do congressman. It's a congressman, congresswoman. I don't know.
Member of
There's
Congress.
member of Congress, yeah. Look, I understand some of what goes on with political correctness. But one of the things I want to emphasize, and you're going to get a lot of this on this podcast, is if you ignore some obvious realities, particularly when it comes to money, you're probably going to get hurt. We can talk about fairness all day long. In fact, we'll probably talk about a little bit of unfairness in the show. But, women are different than men. And they're different in many ways, particularly as it relates to the issue of money. Now, I'm not saying for one second, nor am I even implying that women can't accomplish when it comes to money everything men can do. They can, right? But the reality here is that women face different circumstances than men. And I think in many ways, our industry, the financial services industry, has kind of let them down. They haven't really focused on them the way they should, especially since women are not only the majority of the population, they are also the majority of the asset holders. And that's going to continue to go even further as we go. So this podcast will have guests as we go on. We will be discussing financial issues specifically as it relates to women. And especially those of you who find yourselves suddenly single. And what I mean by that is I'm 60 years old. And when I turned 50, one of the things I started noticing with my friends was they were going through divorces like left and right. They'd been married for 20, 30 years, and suddenly they're all getting divorced. And they had a common theme to them, and that was that their last child had left the house. So the women that we knew well who had gone through these, in many cases, were caught a little bit off guard. And yeah, they found themselves suddenly single. The other issue was you had dug up this issue on widowhood. What did you find was the average age of widowhood in the United States?
59.
59 years. See, that blew me away. National Institute of Health, I believe, is where we found that. Yeah, I mean, your mom is 60, so she's already, above average. She's kept it one more year.
Glad you're still in good health.
Yeah. My mom just became a widow at 83. But yeah, 59. And again, the more that I start thinking about it, I could easily rally off 5 or 6 women that I know who are either in their 50s or early 60s and definitely became widows in their 50s. So that's a real issue that we need to be aware of because you're going through these changes. All right. So let's, again, I'm going to be obvious. I'm going to tell you women are different. And if that turns you off, go ahead, click out. But I'm going to also emphasize the differences are good. Okay. And I'm not talking about the obvious physical ones, although obviously that's part of the factor too, because of health issues. But all right. So let's talk about what some of those differences are, Wes, and then we can kind of get into how that affects things on a financial side. All right. So what's the first one that when we wrote our book Suddenly Single, what were some of the key points that we emphasized about why women are different?
First and foremost, women live longer, considerably longer than men. And we'll get into the details in a little bit about why that's a big deal in retirement, but that's easily not.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's we can hash that in now. I mean, yeah, they live longer, and so you got your retirement's longer, right? I mean, the money's got to last longer. As a result, you're gonna spend more. I mean, even if you're very frugal, if you're retired longer, your money has to last longer. So that's a big one. I know that what compounds that a little bit is that on average, women make less,
Hmm.
right? About 87%, I think, studies. Now, again, I don't want to get into the fairness of it all, and for whatever it's worth, we're strong believers that, if you got two senior executives, the one who's doing the best job should be paid the most. I don't care if they're men or women, they should be paid the most. And, there should not be two different pay scales. And, we're not talking athletes now. Athletes is a whole different subject, because athletes are in their own business. But women do make less. Sometimes they take time off, and sometimes for whatever reason they do make less. A lack of willingness or capability maybe of being geographically mobile in pursuing jobs. Who knows? So you're living longer, you're making less, you're spending more. What else?
With a lot of this, you're more likely to die alone. In fact, 80% of men are going to die married. 80%
Yeah.
of women end up dying single.
Yeah, I don't know if we told your mom that one yet. That's an interesting one. So she's around to the end, but I'm not necessarily around to the end. All right, so that's a real eye opener. I also know statistically men are more likely to remarry after becoming widowers than women are too. But yeah, that 80-20 thing that is a huge eye opener. So if your strategy, if you find yourself suddenly single and your financial strategy is to maybe combine finances with somebody else, that may happen, but it may not. The odds it may not work that way. And look, I don't think anyone considers, there was a time where, you go back to the 20s and 30s where marriage was its own way of making money. It was like you would find an arranged marriage if you came from the right family and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that even still happens in parts of the world, but thankfully it's not too
What
normal
was it?
here. So
Dowries were a
yeah,
big
yeah, you even
thing.
got money, or if you had no money, at least you married someone who was wealthier. And look, that thing happens. I mean, I know plenty of people that that have, but it's just not the norm. And what I want you to understand, and this really comes from years and years of us working with clients, the majority of them who are women, is that these are just some realities. These are realities. They became widowed sooner than they thought. They became divorced when they never thought they would get divorced. And the other factor that we're not supposed to talk about, but it's true, is that very often in a married couple, one spouse handles the money from a big picture, the investment side, and then the other one handles it from the day to day, the finances of the household. And more times than not, it's the husband who's handling the investment side, or at least aware of it, and it's the wife, or it's another spouse. We don't even have to say husband, wife, whatever, who's handling the day to day. And so, if the person who's handling the day to day is suddenly now left with the decision of handling the investments and all that, there's a gap. There's an issue there. And we want to help you fill that issue. We want to help you to be aware, of what that is all about. So, the good step, or the first step in doing that, and we'd like to share with you as a listener to the show, since this is the very first show, so this is the pilot, is to get you a copy of our book. It's called Suddenly Single. And there's two versions of the book. There's a version that's geared towards women who've been divorced. And there's another one that's geared towards women who have become widowed. And this book will take you through some of the myths that people believe when they go through these changes, these challenges. And much of what we will be discussing with you on this podcast every month comes from what's in that book. So as a listener, we'd love for you to get a copy of the book. And it's very simple. It's free. You just need to go to suddenlysinglebook.com, enter your information there, and we'll send it out to you. Now, when you do that, you will also receive an email whenever a new show is posted, new podcast show, that is. We will also be doing video training for our listeners. So you'll be getting notification of that. And you may be getting other things as time goes by sent to you via email. If at any point in time you don't want the email, you just opt out. It's a very simple thing. All right. So if we have recorded several of these programs in a row, so this is the introductory one. So if you just stay tuned here, the next one is about to pop up. But I hope that if you find this show to be enjoyable, you'll give us a review. I hope you'll also share it. Share it with your friends who maybe are going through situations similar to you. So have a great day, and we will be back very shortly with episode number 2 of the Suddenly Single podcast.